our society, like those are the people that we look down on. And I feel like we want them to be the bottom of the barrel because it makes us feel better about it gives us a hierarchy. Well, at least I don't suffer from that. At least I'm not a drug addict.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
Hey.
Johnson & Johnson had to pay $572 million.
Yeah. So I actually, for those who are listening who don't know me, I'm Q, and I go by Q the Nurse, and you can find me everywhere, anywhere by Q the Nurse. But I do nursing news every week. I do nursing news. I do stories that matter to nurses and healthcare providers. And I did a story on this, right? And this story made me very happy. Jami, this story made me so happy. Because I'm going to get on my soapbox for a hot second here, all right? Look, listen to me. If you go to a state where marijuana is legal and you find a kid in the corner smoking a blunt, you could put that kid, that young man away, that young lady away for years, literally years, for smoking a blunt. And we all know the worst thing that happens to someone that's on weed, if they're not driving while on a DUIs, driving under the influence in any kind of drug, I'm all against. But if someone is just smoking weed, doing that by themselves, the worst thing that can happen to that kid, maybe they get the giggles, maybe they order some McDonald's late at night, all right? But to have these humongous corporations pump this entire country with these insane amount of opioids and narcotics to the point where people are going on the street to buy heroin, jumping to needles, using fentanyl, dying at rates we have never seen since the crack epidemic, right? Mm-hmm. And then these huge corporations, not only do they walk away free, but they're making millions and in some cases billions of dollars a year. And they've been scot-free. Nothing's gone wrong to them. No one's getting charged. No one's going to jail. So the fact that Johnson & Johnson had to pay that $527 million, I was like, this is the beginning of I was just so happy to hear this news. I don't even know how you feel about this, but I do know this made me so happy. And for those out there who don't know, because I did do the story on this, Johnson & Johnson made, I think it was like 18 or some crazy number, billions of dollars in 2018. So $527 million does sound like a lot, but it wasn't it didn't break the bank. They're not bankrupt. They're not losing their business. All I know is this is the beginning of something special. I'm happy that they had to pay that fine.
Well, and I mean, if you look back through the history of the very beginning, before the epidemic really became in full force, there were multiple waves or stages of this.
Yes.
And it all began because these med reps went around and they had these medications, talked to physicians about these medications and said, hey, you know what? Let's not just do these narcotics for your cancer patients, because those are the ones who typically got opioids, right?
Yes.
And they said, hey, but these are non-addicting. We've done studies that have proven that these are non-addictive medications. And so physicians started prescribing them because they wanted their patients to be as close to pain-free as possible, right? So I had rotator cuff surgery. Here, take tons of this. Oh, you broke your foot really bad? Take tons of this. And then that's where it all began.
Yeah.
And the upward of 80% of heroin addicts, it all happened because they first had a prescription to opioids.
Yeah, and
they're not just bad people who decided to go out and they dreamed of being a drug addict one day. That's not where this came from. So I mean, whose problem is it that we got these people addicted?
Exactly. So, and that's why you have to go back to the source, right? I think it's a good thing, right? Because I think for the most part, people start to understand. And the reason I say people are starting to understand this is because a lot of the times now when I'm at work, I'm giving painkillers to patients and patients are like, oh my goodness, am I going to get addicted?
Yeah.
So I understand when patients are actually worried, and it makes me happy because at least they know what can happen. These addictions to these drugs isn't going to happen to everybody. Yes, it can happen to you. And I know we always say it could happen to you on your first dose and all of these crazy, scary things, but that's because we want to prevent it from happening. But it's not going to happen to the majority of patients if they take the medication the prescription as of 2019, at least in very specific hospitals. Some places in the U.S. still to this day are handing out opioids like it's candy. But I'll go there in a second. But what I'm saying is I'm happy that patients are now understanding that this is a thing that can happen based on the medication that they get prescribed from the hospital. And like you said, Jamie, it started from these what was the term you used? These med reps that went to these doctors. And a lot of these places, a lot of these med reps, a lot of these pharmaceutical companies would tell these doctors, if you prescribe this opioid, we can give you a bonus, especially to these primary care physicians. If you prescribe this, and then these doctors are like, yeah, so they say it's not addictive. It is a painkiller. It is helping the patient, and I'm going to get paid more. It's a win-win-win-win, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these doctors started handing them out like candy, and next thing you know, when that prescription runs out and the doctor says, I'm not going to give you any more prescription because your diagnosis doesn't call for it or your situation doesn't call for it, they're going to find that fix somewhere else. And that fix is going to be some street drug, and that only street drug that can compare to the strength in which they got that med is going to be heroin, is going to be fentanyl, it's going to be some hardcore, nasty, crazy shit that is shipped from all over the place. I don't want to get into the whole drugs coming up from Mexico craziness because but that is the next step that they're going to go into. And when they do get into those crazy places, I don't know, like, I don't know if people know, but the fentanyl that is now laced in the heroin that people are getting, the fentanyl that they now placing into these drugs that are from the street, like the smallest doses of this fentanyl, the smallest doses of it can end your life.
Right. It's because it's not the same type of fentanyl that we give patients either.
Exactly.
And I think that's another confusing thing because, okay, so neuro, my history. So with our patients, we don't like to give anything that would cause them, I mean, you have your brain cut into and they need something for pain, right? But we can't give anything like Dilaudid that's going to cause them not to be able to wake up easy.
Exactly.
Because we're going to think, oh my goodness, maybe they threw a clot or maybe they're bleeding. But we give them fentanyl. We'll give them like 25 mics of fentanyl or so. But that is not the same as the fentanyl that they have now. The fentanyl that's on the street is actually synthetic. It's non-medical grade fentanyl. And that's why it is so dangerous. Because it's not made properly, but it gets the quote unquote job done, for what they need. But that's
that potency is through the roof. The potency is through the roof. I mean, like, I just got my CPR renewed, right? And like, so I've done CPR. I've been a nurse for 3 years. I've been a nursing assistant before I was a nurse. I was a nursing assistant for like 3 years prior to becoming a nurse. And I've done CPR every 2 years since, right?
Mm-hmm.
And never before in a CPR class did we have an entire section on Narcan. Never before in a CPR class did we have an entire lecture on what do you do in patients when you find someone on the floor. So the EMT, the medic that was leading the CPR class is like, at this point, and I'm talking about Connecticut and Massachusetts. We're not even talking about the other states that the deaths of heroin is skyrocketing.
Like
right?
Philly, West Virginia?
Exactly. But in Connecticut and Massachusetts, they are saying when they find someone out cold, yes, they are obviously thinking cardiac CPR, let me jump on it, but they are giving literally every patient that they find Narcan, the nasal spray. Literally every single person. If it doesn't work, great. So this is a cardiac issue. This is they had a cardiac arrest, but they said like 50% of the time so yes, they are those drug addicts. When you picture in your mind someone who's like doing heroin, they are those drug addicts. But you have to remember, it all starts from the drugs that the doctors prescribe. So you also do have the grandma who had the hip surgery, she goes home, she has hip pain, she takes a pill, she takes another pill, she forgets that she took those 2 pills. An
Mm-hmm.
hour later, she takes 2 more, and next thing you know, she's out cold, right? You have those kids that the parents are super worried about their kid. They in chemo, they have these crazy diagnoses, and their parents give them extra medication because they just want the kid not to be in
Yeah.
pain. Next thing you know, that they're out cold, or that kid is 8, 9, 10 years old, scrummaging through mom and dad's closet or medication drawer and taking some of these narcotics, and they end up. So it's literally everyone. Yes, they are those hardcore patients that end up wanting to switch from the prescribed dosage of Dilaudid or fentanyl or whatever they got at the oxys, and they want to jump to the heroin. But that also trickles out to the family, to the community,
Mm-hmm.
in ways you don't expect, but it is affecting literally everybody.
I started volunteering, which a lot of my family completely disagrees with. It's been interesting over probably since 2012. I think I've become more of my own person for like what I think is right. And I think it's really because of the exposure to the people that I deal with in the hospital setting, right? I'm from the South, so I'm from a very conservative area, from a very Southern family, but I've had so many patients here, especially in Raleigh, that they suffer from heroin addiction. We have a lot of overdoses that are there, and you hear so much negativity like, oh, we just need to let them weed themselves out. Like, we need to stop doing this. And it is absolutely horrible and horrendous. So I got so tired of it. I started volunteering at the North Carolina Harm Reduction Center. And like, we spent 2 or 3 hours the other weekend just stuffing bags full of Narcan and like syringes. So they take a van out into the communities that they know that people are shooting up with heroin or that people are doing whatever, and they hand them these bags like, here, call this, it's Good Samaritan. Like, we also need to know like what you took so that we can warn the other people that this is a dangerous batch. And so many people are angry at those of us who go out and we do things so that they can have Narcan, so that they can save their friends, so that they can live another day and maybe get help tomorrow, you know?
So Jamie, that's a super touchy subject. So like
I'm all full of touchy subjects. Like, I'm such a controversial person.
No, and I love it. And I love that you brought that up, because this is something that I do struggle with a lot, because I agree with you 100%. I'm like super in that, like I'm definitely on your side, maybe even more so, because I do believe that we should have like safe drug use, what's it called?
Facilities, safe injection facilities.
Exactly.
Yeah,
safe injection
same.
facilities where you should get clean needles, where you know that there's going to be some healthcare professionals there, where we have Narcan on like there's Narcan there if anything were to go off the
and resources to give you access to rehab too, so you don't have to find that out on your own.
I knew there was something here, Jamie. I knew that I knew there was something here. But at the same time, I can definitely see how the public, and not even just the public, just other people, like other healthcare providers, I can definitely see how people would view that as the worst kind of enabling, right? Like, I understand how that is. It looks bad, but if you give a safe place for people to do these things that they feel that they need to do, or a safe place for people to do these things that they are going to do no matter what, right? It's an addiction, meaning that they are going to go to any length to get what they need done to them. So they will go out to the street and use a dirty needle that they find on the floor. They will go find someone that is selling some crazy laced fentanyl heroin that they have no idea, and inject it into their bodies because they think that it's what they usually get. If you give them a safe place to do this, if you give them the right dose, if you wean them off right, if you have all the resources, at least we have it documented. At least we have help. At least we have a community around them that can pull them out of that hole.
But and maybe these people need to feel loved. You know, maybe they need to feel supported. Maybe they need to be seen as a human being. I mean, I truly think that we all have the ability to be addicted to something. I think that some of us are addicted to work. I think that some of us have an addiction to shopping or alcohol or, I don't know, sex. Like, we all have things that we're really drawn to and we just can't get enough of. And it makes me sad and it hurts my heart that our society, like, those are the people that we look down on, and I feel like we want them to be the bottom of the barrel because it makes us feel better about it, gives us a hierarchy. Well, at least I don't suffer from that. At least I'm not a drug addict. I may not have a dollar to my name because I can't save money because I need to be out buying clothes or buying the newest whatever, but at least I'm not that person, you know?
Yeah. No, and that's a really good point because, yeah, I mean, like, you're right. Everyone can be addicted to anything, and everyone has a different, I don't know what's the, like, some people, like, a little bit of stress is going to cause them to jump overboard. Some people,
Yeah.
a lot of bit of stress is what they need for them to, jump
Right.
overboard. But
We're all individuals.
we're all individuals, and some addictions hurt us physically. Some addictions hurt us financially. Some addictions hurt us emotionally, right? If you're addicted to sex and you're having sex with all these people, yeah, you can get these STDs, but you also can't never have a wife, a partner, a husband, whatever, right? So there's all these crazy addictions that people can have, would have, are more inclined or less inclined of having. So if you have that community that just says, look, we're human beings. We're here to take care of each other, right? Like, this is a safe place for you to take care of the things that you feel like you need to take care of, but we're going to help you get out of it. That has to be the answer, because what else can we do?
I know. And unfortunately, a lot of medical providers, they look at addiction very differently than what we're talking about as well.
Yes.
And I 100% of the time always stand up for the addict. I don't care. I'll go toe to toe with a doctor any time of day to say, no, this is not okay. This is not what we're going to do. Your plan sucks and I don't support it. And this is what would be better. But then I also think too, these people, like, we don't know what they've gone through in life and need to be numb towards. Some of us don't have healthy coping mechanisms. Like you were talking about the levels of stress. Like, you don't know if this person wasn't sexually assaulted by their dad until they were 18 and they can't escape those nightmares. And every day that they open their eyes, like, it's just so heavy in their soul. And, like, why are we so mad at these people that they need an escape from reality? Like, why can't we be there to hold their hand, to love them, to say, hey, I'm with you through it all. Like, if you slip and fall, I'm going to be there to pick you up 101 times, Like, we just don't stop and think about all I know is what I deal with in the stress of my life. And I've had a very blessed and golden life, but my life isn't everybody else's. And I can recognize that. And I think we really, society in general, healthcare professionals, non-healthcare, we all just have to look around and see that we're human and people suffer differently.
No, and you're so right, because, like, I ditto. Like, my life has been I can't complain in comparison, right? I think I've lived like a legit blessed life. But even the little things that cause me to struggle with if I I'll go weeks at a time. I'll go to the gym and I'll binge eat and I'll be disgusting, and we all go through these little things where, right, like, or you just like being a bum and just Netflix and chill for literally an entire week and not getting out of your bed and being just a legit bum like that. Like, you could just think about, oh my goodness, I'm stressing out about a car payment, where someone else is stressing out because their family's sick. Or like you just said, they've gone through sexual assault and abuse chronically for years of their life from someone that they supposed to love them, like a parent, like an uncle, so it is, you have to at least. And that's why I think nursing is the greatest profession in the world, because you are forced to empathize with the patient in the bed. You are forced to ask the question, why did they do the things that they did that caused them to lead here? And then you have to understand, because of those situations, they are here, and we're going to help them get out of those situations. So, like, if you are not willing to just put yourself in someone else's shoes, it's going to be really hard for you to accept that, yes, we do need these safe places for patients to come by. But I have to ask, Jami, are you willing, or do you think it is? Like when it comes to marijuana, I think marijuana is an easy one. Like, do you think that it should be legal federally? And then on top of that, do you think we should do other drugs that should be legal recreationally? Or are you like, nah, no, thank you for the legalization of other drugs, and you think we just should have safe havens for people to use them?
I think marijuana, I definitely believe, should be a legal thing.
You said illegal or illegal?
A.
Oh,
The
okay.
letter A. Legal.
Okay.
I mean, because honestly, if you look, because the FDA has marijuana in the same schedule or class as heroin, they can't do enough research on it to really see what all it helps. So when people use it, quote unquote, like inappropriately, and then they found, hey, my mom had lupus, and actually she's doing so much better with the use of this, or like with CBD with kids with epilepsy, like it's an off-label use. I think there are a lot of things that it actually could help, and I think that it's a lot safer than alcohol. So I don't know why that would be illegal. Honestly, I think that just not enough people understand, or you have like older people that was never the way it was, so they want to keep it that way. I don't know. I don't know if all drugs should be legal. Like heroin's a tough one.
That's a real tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
I don't think that you should be able to walk down or walk into a store and buy heroin, but then again, it'd probably be a lot safer than the stuff that's laced with synthetic fentanyl.
It's hard. It really is a hard question, and I hate to put you on the spot like that, but
no, I love it.
That's the kind of thing I struggle with, because I'm like, how far is far enough, right? Like how far are we going to go? Like I do want it to be safe. I do want it to be regulated, and it would be nice if on the census it would be like, do you recreationally use heroin? And then we would have a number of people. We would have like actual data to back these things up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate this. If you guys were informed or educated in any way, shape, or form by these stories, please hit that like button. If you liked my presentation of the news, I really suggest you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every time Q the Nurse drops some hot, fresh press news. Thank you. Catch you next week. Deuces.